G'day guys, Crema, the developers of Temtem, have released a short-term and a mid-term roadmap to bring them into the full release of Temtem, as it is in early access and it's supposed to be in early access for about a year. What they've released is a roadmap basically by quarter for the next foreseeable future, and what we're going to do today is break that down. So let's go. The short-term roadmap gives us a look at spring, summer, and fall for this coming year 2020. We'll go through each one individually. So for spring 2020, they're expecting to release Ranked Matchmaking version 1, Spectator Mode version 1, in-game chat, chat bubbles, and the club management. And they give us a bit more of a breakdown as to what these are referring to. The most important one really being the ranked matchmaking. So they do mention that while we plan to do balance changes frequently during early access, our plan is to not be obsessed about reaching a perfect balance until the Temtem roster is complete in the full final release. Due to only having a limited set of Tems and techniques, it is impossible to balance everything perfectly, so we'll be mostly balancing extra overpowered stuff that can break the current meta. This is a really good technique, I think, into planning what they're going to do with balancing. There is no point in wasting development time while they're still adding Temtem. And as we get into some of this roadmap stuff here, you can see that even in the next 2 quarters, they're going to add 50 new Temtem just in this short-term roadmap. So it really is too much effort to look at trying to balance everything perfectly. Other than that, a really interesting thing they're doing is the Temtem auto scaler for these ranked gameplay matches. So their idea to solve that is to introduce auto-scaling into the ranked queue. Auto-scaling will essentially perfect your Temtems, upping all their SVs up to 50 for the battle and their level to the current level cap, which is currently 48. With auto-scaling, players will still be able to capture and organize their teams, set their preferred TV spread using fruits and training, obtain the necessary gear through quests and side quests. Quests are an interesting one that we'll touch on later, and breeding from their desired egg techniques. But players won't need to grind for perfect SVs and spend a fortune breeding to reach this point. I don't really know how I feel about this option because the breeding in Temtem is very in-depth and I actually like the system. I'm not a breeder in these kind of games, especially the Pokemon ones. I cannot stand it, but I actually really enjoy it in Temtem, and I think the reason for that is because the SVs and TVs are presented to you in the squad screen at all times. It makes me want to play the game and want to get better Temtem. So when, you catch a new Temtem, like, oh wow, I really want to use this Temtem, but you look at the stats and they're not very good, especially the SVs, it makes me want to catch more and do some breeding and try and find better ones. And this kind of removes that feeling a little bit, like what's the point in it? But this won't affect anything outside of the ranked matchmaking, and they do touch on that in this article here. This auto-scaling will only apply to ranked matchmaking queue, so there are other game modes where having a perfect Temtem and breeding for them will be necessary is in-game tournaments, player-organized tournaments, the battles, the dojo club wars, which is a later feature, and the end-game PvE content, which is also a later feature. So it's not an end-all for perfect Temtem breeders. But what it does is limit the reason that you should invest in it, especially if you're into the PvP scene and you want to get higher in that ranked matchmaking. It really is more about the techniques your Temtem have, how you're pairing them together for the synergies, and the TV spread using the fruits and training and that kind of thing. The summer 2020 release is going to be a big one. We're getting a new island called Kisawa, something like that. 25 new Temtem, player housing, the climbing gear, which I'm really excited for because you see the climbing spots all over the map and you can't use them. The emote pass version 2, but the key thing here I think really is the player housing and the extra island. I'm mostly excited for the island because I'm not much of a house builder, but the housing is an interesting topic and it is something that they did promise as part of the Kickstarter, so it's good that it is finally coming. If you have been playing the game, you would have seen that there is the furniture shops all around the islands, which are the little work in progress, content coming soon signs. So it's good that they're finally doing something about this, and it is sooner than we originally thought. I was expecting this feature to be way down the track because it does require a lot of development to make a housing system where you can decorate the house and the architecture behind it from a server side, because you're going to have a lot of players in a similar place that have different houses, and that's got to be instanced to the player themselves. And it also mentions that you can invite other players to your house and hang out with them in your your space as well. So there is a bit of development work there, and it's interesting how early this is coming, and it's good because this is a feature that a lot of people would be requesting for, and it will make a long difference in the long run. Fall 2020 brings us another new island, Kipanku. I'm terrible with these names. 25 new Temtem, the first mythical Temtem, which is really exciting. In-game tournaments, the quest diary, and achievements. The one thing that's in this section that I'm not really sure about is the quest diary. I don't know why we're waiting this long for the quest diary to be implemented, because there are a lot of quests in Temtem, especially side quests. You are constantly talking to people in the towns, picking up side quests for all sorts of things. Collect me this item, go talk to this person, do this, do that, find me a certain Temtem. And it's really hard to keep track of them in its current state because there is no quest diary. All you get is that sidebar which shows the latest 2-3 requests that you've picked up, and then you'll never see them in that list again. It only shows the most recent or the most recently updated quest. You do see them on the map, so there is obviously behind the scenes a tracking feature for the quests you have picked up and what current state they're in. It's already there because if you open the map, you can see if you've picked up the quest, if you've got to hand it in, that kind of thing. So I don't really know why this is so far down the line, and for people who are playing the game now, a quest diary is something that I personally believe would make such a difference to the experience, because if you've finished the main story content that's there, something that I would like to do is do all the side quests that I've picked up, because there is so many. And I remember in the first island there is one house you come across where there are 3 children and they all have an individual quest, and for those quests you have to travel all across the islands to find certain things for the people, and it's really hard to remember what you actually had to do and what the quest was about, and that diary makes a difference. And it's strange that it's so far down the line. I would much prefer this feature to be coming, in the spring update or something like that. So I originally had the short-term and mid-term roadmaps in the one video, and while I was editing it, I realized it goes for like 20 minutes. So I decided to trim the fat, shorten that down, and split them into 2 videos, because I know for me personally, I don't watch 20-minute YouTube videos. So this is going to be the short-term roadmap, and I'll have the mid-term roadmap coming out probably probably tomorrow, maybe the day after, depends on how long it takes me to edit it. I'm going to cut out a lot of the fat and just keep the actual content that you guys want to hear. So if you like this approach, let me know, and I'll do this with more of my other videos. If you preferred that I kept it in the one video, also let me know that in the comments below. Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next one. That's all from me today. My name is Norza, and have a great day.